When Mom got the diagnosis, I was the first one to drop everything. No hesitation. No, we need to talk about this later nonsense. Just cold, hard action. Cancer. Stage 3. The doctor's words still echo in my head like a bad track on repeat. I remember sitting there, stunned, while Mom clung to my hand like I was her lifeline. The irony? I was the only one who actually became that lifeline. Dad was long gone, vanished when I was a kid, so it was just me, Mom, and my brother Jason. Jason, the golden child, the one who always got away with everything. You know the type. Charming, charismatic, and utterly useless when it actually mattered. While Mom was figuring out how to face the beast inside her, Jason was busy building his social media empire or whatever it was. He popped in occasionally, with his perfect smile and empty promises to help. But when it came down to it, he was nowhere to be found. That left me. I sold what I could. My car, my savings, even my beloved vintage record collection that I never wanted to part with. I took on extra shifts, working double time while juggling Mom's appointments, medications, and her relentless mood swings. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Because at the end of the day, someone had to be the grown-up. I didn't expect a medal. I didn't expect a thank you card. But I expected Mom to at least acknowledge that I was there, front and center, when it mattered most. Instead, I got silence. The treatment dragged on for nearly a year. There were days when Mom barely had the strength to open her eyes. Days when I sat by her hospital bed, holding her hand, whispering stupid jokes just to see her faint smile. I was her rock, her nurse, her everything. And Jason? Well, he was busy. Too busy to visit, too busy to help, and definitely too busy to care. When the doctors finally said the cancer was in remission, I breathed a sigh of relief that felt like I'd been holding my breath underwater for a decade. I thought, finally, some normalcy. But life, as it turns out, has a wicked sense of humor. Mom's health stabilized, but her attitude shifted. She became distant, cold almost. She barely looked at me when I came around. Conversations with her became short, clipped, like she was rehearsing lines in a play she didn't want me to watch. And then came the will. I remember the day like it was yesterday. Jason had called me, sounding unusually cheerful, which was a red flag in itself. "Hey, sis, Mom wants us to come over," he said. "She's got something to tell us." I shrugged off the unease in my gut. I figured it was finally time to talk about her future plans. Something I thought I had earned the right to know. The house was eerily quiet when I arrived. Mom sat at the kitchen table looking fragile and distant, like a ghost trapped in a body that no longer felt like hers. Jason was there too, flashing that winning grin like a shark ready to strike. Mom cleared her throat, pulled out a thick envelope, and slid it across the table. "I've made my decisions," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jason grabbed the envelope eagerly, ripping it open. His smile grew wider with every page. And then came the bombshell. Everything. The house, the savings, the investments, even the small cabin upstate that Mom had dreamed about. Everything was left to Jason. Me? Nothing. Not a word. Not a penny. I sat there stunned. I could feel my heart pounding so loudly it was a miracle Mom didn't hear it. "Mom," I said, voice shaking. "What about all the medical bills? The car, the records, everything I sold to help pay for your treatment?" She looked at me, eyes cold and hard, and said, "That was your choice. That was it. No explanation, no apology, just cold dismissal." Jason chuckled, shaking his head. "You're dramatic, as always. Mom made the right call." I left that house that day feeling like I'd been kicked in the gut. Betrayed, yes, but mostly invisible? How does someone who's literally paid for your survival become irrelevant overnight? That night, I sat on my couch, staring at the ceiling, letting the bitter taste of reality settle in. I was broke, emotionally, drained, and utterly alone. But I wasn't defeated. Not yet. If Mom thought she could erase me from her life and walk away without consequences, she was in for a surprise. Because this story, it's far from over. After that day, I stopped answering Mom's calls. Let Jason play the perfect son. Let him bask in his ill-gotten inheritance while I nursed my bruised ego and an empty bank account. I was broke, burned out, and frankly, pissed off. But most of all, I was done being the forgotten hero in my own family's tragedy. Funny thing about betrayal, it fuels you. Like gasoline on a fire. And I was about to burn some bridges. I started digging. Not out of spite, well, maybe a little, but because I wanted answers. How was it possible that Jason got everything when I paid for Mom's treatment? What had I missed? The answer was simple and infuriating. Jason had manipulated Mom. He played on her fears, her loneliness, and frankly, her guilt over everything. Turns out, during one of my extra shifts at work, Jason slipped into Mom's house and planted ideas. That I was greedy. That I was taking advantage of her illness. That I only helped because I wanted the inheritance. I could almost hear the gears in Mom's head grinding that awful narrative until it fit like a glove. The ultimate betrayal wasn't just the will. It was the lie. The poison Jason fed her. I wasn't just invisible. I was a villain in her eyes. That realization stung worse than any cancer diagnosis. But here's where the story gets better. I wasn't about to let Jason have his fairy tale ending. I started with small moves, quiet but deliberate. Because revenge is an art, not a tantrum. First, I hired a private investigator. Not to spy on Mom, but on Jason. I learned about his shady business deals, his dodgy contracts, and how much debt he was hiding behind that glossy social media life. Turns out, Jason was as good at making money as he was at stealing his sister's dignity. Non-existent. I found a few skeletons in his closet that would make a courtroom drama look like a soap opera. Meanwhile, I reconnected with old friends, saved what little I could, and even picked up some freelance gigs online. The road, back to stability, was slow but steady. The best part? Jason had no idea I was coming for him. That's the beauty of underestimation. He laughed at my struggles, thinking I'd never bounce back. And I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But no one messes with me and gets away with it. I planned a gathering. Family dinner. Nothing fancy, just a, hey, let's all catch up kind of thing. Jason was thrilled, of course. He thought it was a chance to show off his success and flaunt Mom's approval. What he didn't know was that I'd invited a few guests he wasn't expecting. A lawyer specializing in family estates, a financial auditor, and the private investigator. The night arrived, and Mom looked as fragile as ever. Jason strutted in, full of confidence. I played the perfect hostess, smiling, chatting, pretending everything was normal. And then I dropped the bombshell. In front of everyone, I laid out Jason's financial mess, debts, shady contracts, and some serious legal gray areas. I showed the proof from the investigator about his attempts to poison Mom's mind against me. Mom's face went from frail to furious in seconds. Jason stammered, tried to deny everything, but the evidence was damning. The lawyer explained how Jason's mismanagement could jeopardize the entire inheritance, including the house and savings, and suddenly, the perfect son was cornered like a rat. Mom's expression softened towards me for the first time in months. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears welling up. "I didn't see it before." It was the apology I didn't ask for, but I Needed it anyway. I didn't need to forgive Jason. Not yet. But I was finally seen. Finally, justice wasn't just a word in a courtroom drama. It was real. That night, I left Mom's house with a strange sense of victory. Not because I humiliated my brother, but because I took back my power. Because in a world where loyalty is paid for with silence, sometimes you have to make noise. And, believe me, I was just getting started. After that explosive dinner, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would settle. Mom would start to see me for who I really was, the daughter who fought tooth and nail for her survival. Jason? Well, he was exposed, humiliated, and scared. At least for a little while. But here's the thing about family drama. It doesn't end with apologies and truth bombs. Jason wasn't the type to go quietly. No, he went full war mode. He doubled down on his lies, trying to paint me as the villain again, this time with a vengeance fueled by desperation. That's when I realized, if I wanted this to end cleanly, I couldn't just fight fire with fire. I had to be smarter. I decided to take my revenge where it really hurt. His precious reputation and his fortune. First, I gathered every piece of dirt I could find on him. Contracts where he'd cheated partners, evidence of tax evasion, shady, loans he never declared. Nothing illegal on my part. Just facts that would make any investor run for the hills. Then I reached out to his biggest clients. No threats, no yelling. Just a simple email from a concerned business partner, outlining concerns about his practices and recommending a full audit. Within days, Jason's world started to unravel. Calls stopped coming in. Accounts froze, investors pulled out, and guess who watched all this happen from the sidelines, calm and collected? Me. While Jason was drowning in financial chaos, I quietly began rebuilding my life. Freelance jobs turned into contracts, which turned into a small but steady income. Mom, meanwhile, kept calling me again. Not for money, not for help, but to apologize. To ask if I could come over, I went. Because despite everything, she was still my mother.